Every now and then, a humble little indie game comes out of nowhere and rocks our world. Last year it was the tremendous Return of the Obra Dinn, earlier it was The Witness, and this year it's Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds is a first-person open-world adventure game. You play as a four-eyed alien living on a quaint little planet. Your species has been pursuing space travel, and you're the newest recruit in the program to head to the stars. The whole game is limited to a single small solar system consisting of 6 planets, 2 moons, and a comet. You'll venture out to the handful of celestial bodies, and via text logs and a handful of characters, you'll begin uncovering a story of ancient aliens and a mystery involving the entire solar system. On the surface, nothing about it sounds particularly inspired or original, but in practice, Outer Wilds is possibly the most exciting game experience you can have right now. Before I go any further, I want to say that if anything about what I've just said or what you've just seen sounds exciting, if it sounds like something you know you would enjoy, please stop watching this and go discover it for yourself. The pleasure of going into a game with no knowledge and having it blow your mind is so rare nowadays, and discovering Outer Wilds was a huge piece of its magic. So what makes this game special? To start, the solar system you explore. This isn't No Man's Sky where you have 15 quintillion planets of varying colors to warp to. This is a meticulously handcrafted small-scale solar system. Every location you visit is completely unique and densely packed with discoveries awaiting your arrival. It's open world, but it doesn't have any of the classic open world tropes you'd expect. There are no waypoints or quest markers or side activities to see and do. You are free to visit any location in the system once you take off, and when you arrive, you'll be greeted with stunning, bizarre environments. The game has a tremendous sense of imagination with these planets. Essentially, every location has its own gimmick to discover, and everything about the planet is built around that gimmick. They take fun ideas like black holes or gravity wells or extreme weather and build whole planets around those ideas. The game is mostly not trying for realism with the planets. They are built to catch you off guard and smack you with a sense of awe. There's an almost childlike imagination and absurdity to the planets. You'll take off in your cool-looking, slightly slapdash spaceship and pick the first place that catches your eye and head to it. Again, this isn't a simulation game, so flight control is straightforward. Controlling the ship is initially floaty and fiddly, but you'll very quickly get a hang of it. During space travel, you don't have to worry about fuel. Distances between planets are measured in the dozens of kilometers, and if your ship gets damaged, you need only exit it, find the place that was damaged, and hold X to repair it. You don't have to deploy landing gear or know about flight deltas or apoapsids. Your ship has a handy autopilot feature that'll help you get to places easily, and landing cameras are there to assist with landings early on. It's all very friendly and approachable, and within an hour you'll be casually zipping around the system. Once you've picked your destination and traveled to it, you land and put your spacesuit on. Here's where the only type of simulation or survival elements come into play. You have health, oxygen, and fuel when on foot, all measured in the upper left corner. Keeping track of these, specifically oxygen, is going to be important. Thankfully though, like all aspects of the game, it's simple and friendly. To replenish oxygen, you need only stand near a tree or board your ship. Fuel canisters exist out in the world and on your ship too. Managing these bars is easy, but they can lead to moments of panic. You'll definitely find yourself out for too long and realize at the last minute that you are low on oxygen and have to make a panicked run back to your ship. Your little jetpack will help you explore the planet you've just arrived on, especially if the gravity is lower. You'll be zipping up and down in no time, platforming from cliff edge to staircase, but the fuel gauge burns quickly and it running out can also be a good panic inducer. More than a few times I left my ship on higher ground and struggled to return to it once I was out of fuel. These two bars are very simple, but they both do a great job of managing you and how excessively you can explore in a single outing, and I loved the little emergent story moments that would arise from forgetting to keep tabs on them. Okay, so now that you're suited up and ready to explore your planet of choice, you step out into the wild unknown. What you see now is going to vary dramatically depending on where you are, and I really don't want to discuss or show too much of these planets because they truly are amazing to discover. Despite the often fantastical nature of the places you'll go, much of it is rooted in reality and the game has a tremendous sense of place. There are no loading screens or obvious tricks pulled to hide a planet loading in. There's nothing that ever gets in your way or warns you about doing something stupid. You can, for example, just hop out of your ship in the middle of space, and if your ship is still moving, well, then you're just stuck floating in space. Or you can jump out of your ship without a suit on, which, well, you can imagine how that goes. There's a physicality to the whole game, too. Gravity is ever present and varies from planet to planet. One planet with twice the gravity of the Earth-like starting planet is much harder to navigate on foot, while other planets have much lighter gravity and are a joy to bound around on with your jetpack. The ways gravity and momentum play off each other and contribute to the joys of exploration and discovery are wonderful, and it all just feels right in a way that a lot of games struggle with. While you explore, you have a few little gadgets to aid your journey. You have a signal detector that points you in the direction of fellow explorers and other more mysterious signals. You've also got a scout launcher, which essentially launches a drone out in front of you that then allows you to take pictures of what it sees. At first, this little gadget seems handy yet insignificant, but the more you play, the more ways the launcher becomes useful. You can throw it down in a dark cave and let it light the place up, or use it to help detect hazardous ghost matter, an invisible form of matter that instantly kills you. You can launch it into an inaccessible area in front of you to try and find a way in, or angle it high and launch it into orbit around the planet you're on, allowing you to spot locations elsewhere on the planet. It's a really great little bit of game design to have something so simple have so many uses that come up naturally throughout the game. The game does point out all of these uses via posters on your ship, but I didn't notice those until nearly finishing the game, and so I found myself just slowly discovering more and more uses for it as time went on. I really fell in love with the little gizmo by the time I was finished, and I always have great admiration for something so simple that is used so intelligently throughout a game. Your final tool is a linguistic translator, and you'll be seeing a lot of it. Pretty quickly after landing on your planet, you'll begin to discover writing on walls left by the long-dead Nomai, a clan of aliens who lived long before you and explored the same solar system. The core of Outer Wilds is discovering the story of the Nomai and their search for the eye of the universe. On the surface, it's a simple, well-worn tale, but through the hundreds of text logs you'll find and read, you slowly begin to piece together a long, complex story full of unique characters and all the turmoil they went through. The structure of the story is fascinating because you can discover the story in a very different order from everyone else that plays the game. Depending on the order in which you go to the planets and the order in which you explore those planets will affect how you uncover the story. The game does a fantastic job of having key story information present on every planet, and for the most part locks major story revelations behind doors that can only be opened if you know prior story beats. I do think it's possible to go through the story in a way that might make it more confusing though. You could theoretically stumble into one of the very late game areas by accident, for example. But without the knowledge you gain from other planets, little will make sense. For me, this freeform story discovery worked fantastically. It played out in a logical way and I was in late game areas late into the game. It's a story that builds on itself no matter where you're going. You learn one thing, have questions about another, then move to a new area and answer prior questions, gain new ones, and so on. It's an incredibly compelling story considering how well-worn the premise is. I found myself thoroughly invested in finding out what happened and how it affected the present-day story. The writing is straightforward and friendly, the Nomai are likable yet flawed, and your race is quaint and early in its existence. Both species are driven by insatiable curiosity and the desire to explore and understand more about life and the universe. It's a thematically refreshing and positive story about life and what it's all about, and right through to the end, I loved it. The game deals in grand, ambiguous, complex themes and story beats and handles them all tremendously, including the ending, which games too frequently get so wrong. So now that you've been on your planet for a while and you're beginning to explore and uncover the story of the Nomai, something very significant happens. You die. The entirety of Outer Wilds runs on a 22-minute time loop. That timer can be set to pause when you are reading or talking to characters via the options, so the 22 minutes can sometimes be more like 40 minutes, but no matter what, you're going to die. You can get killed a ton of different ways before the 22 minutes ever expire, but that 22 minutes is always going to run out and you're always going to die. The memories of your past life then flash before your 4 eyes and you wake up back where you began. This time loop is integral to the story and gameplay loop, and while it may sound frustrating to have this invisible timer running the whole time, in practice it never really is. Once or twice I ran out of time in a spot that annoyed me, but even then it didn't really matter because I always woke up, jumped back in my ship, and took off right for where I was. Over the course of those 22 minutes the solar system is changing. Some planets more than others, and this time loop is essential to uncovering their secrets. Some parts of planets will only be accessible very early on, others not until near the end of the loop. The more you explore, the more comfortable you'll become with this timer, and the better you'll understand the ebb and flow of your little solar system. Many locations have very sneakily hidden shortcut entrances, reminding me a bit of Dark Souls, and they play a great role in you getting even better at the exploration. I do wish that there were more of these secret shortcuts though. It's entirely possible that there are more and I just didn't discover them, but the handful I did find were all very satisfying and useful. There are also doors that can only be opened from the inside and they act as shortcuts too, but the doors reset with each time loop. I understand why they reset. It wouldn't make sense for them to stay open, but it would have been nice if they did. Instead, every time you want to revisit a key location locked behind a door, you have to take the long way in. To help guide you in uncovering all the story, you also have a very useful computer screen on your ship. On it, the ship will log all your discoveries and map them out in groups according to relevance. This log eventually gets a bit messy, and it might have been nice to have some sort of filtering or sorting options, but that's a minor complaint. The log is yet another nice and simple and fantastic bit of game design in Outer Wilds. Not only does it summarize everything you'll ever discover, it also provides useful yet ambiguous clues as to where to go next. You'll either get question marks to indicate you don't know much about a big item, or once you begin to explore further, you'll get a very handy orange asterisk that tells you there is more to be discovered here. It's a very efficient way of giving you a helpful nod that there is more to find without pointing directly to what you've missed. The game isn't just walking around and reading text logs either. There is a surprising and welcome amount of platforming throughout the game, and it's great at using the existing tools and rules of the world to make that platforming work. And rarely does failing a platforming section ever feel like failing, as it often results in you organically and literally falling into new discoveries. I was also surprised to see a decent number of puzzles throughout the game. These puzzles are primarily platforming and exploration focused, but there are also one or two specifically designed puzzle rooms that require you to learn a specific trick. One in particular got a great aha moment out of me and made me think the gimmick of the puzzle would actually make a pretty good little standalone game. And the game doesn't have any classic tutorials teaching you these things, making it all feel even more organic. It's a game that rewards experimentation constantly and does a great job of balancing story, exploration, platforming, and puzzles. Now, I've talked a lot about the pieces of Outer Wilds, and there are many wonderful pieces. The visuals and soundtrack are phenomenal, all the game design and storytelling elements play off of each other wonderfully. The game is absolutely packed with small moments of both scripted and emergent brilliance. It's a game that has been clearly worked on and polished for years and years. If one piece of it was missing, it would be lesser. But the pieces of Outer Wilds are only half of it. For me, the greatest achievement of Outer Wilds is how those pieces come together to create emotions. It's a game that understands both the pleasure and terror of solitude and quiet. It's a game that appreciates the mind-boggling awe of our grand universe, with all of its beauty and horror. It's a game that knows what a delight it is to experience epiphany and discovery. It's one of those truly rare games that makes you wonder what the game itself is capable of. What could I possibly see next? It's a game bursting with creativity and imagination, and I was enraptured for the entirety of the 20 or so hours it took me. I could gush about Outer Wilds for 40 more minutes and still not have covered it all. It's a game that I couldn't stop thinking about until I'd beaten it, and even now, days after finishing it, I'm still thinking about it. About the Nomai and their history, about the player character and their journey, about the past and future of our own universe. It's also a rare game in that it is elevated even higher by having others to discuss and discover it alongside with. It's the type of experience that can only be done in games, and it's a game that reinvigorates my love for this weird, wonderful entertainment medium. To put it simply, Outer Wilds is a once-in-a-generation quality experience, one that I'll fondly cherish forever, and a game that just simply cannot be missed.